I am Dr. Elisa Praderi. I'm the Senior Clinical Protocols and Key Opinion Leader Manager at Formlabs Dental, and I'm reporting from our Berlin office. Today, I'll be covering Formlabs Dental, a year of innovations. This year, we had a lot of new hardware, updates, new software, and materials coming to the market that actually will enable dental professionals to take their workflow to another level. So we have a little bit of the snapshot of everything that happened this year for you today. So let's get started. So as part of our mission and vision in Formlabs Dental, we always wanna, be in line with our motto that is Dentistry Made Easier. And this year in 2024, we believe we have brought solutions that still align with this value proposition and that actually do make dentistry even easier with the 3D printing solutions. Let's see a little bit what these consist of. So we're going to be seeing a little bit of the Form 4B and the Form 4BL, as well as also post-processing hardware solutions and the Formlabs resin washing solution, a couple of new materials on the model and also open platform with Formlabs certified materials, preform print setting center, and open material mode. So let's start first with the hardware updates. Let's look at the Form 4B. So the Form 4B comes, with a blazing speed that meets unmatched accuracy. So this new, hardware unit enables users to print 11 models in 9 minutes. So this is a fast printing solution, also accurate for a perfect fit every time, intuitive so anyone can learn in 15 minutes, and much more. So the Form 4B is powered by low-force display technology, which sets a new standard for print speed, reliability, print quality, and material performance. The LFD, it's how we abbreviate this term. It's all the print engine that consists of the Form 4B that will really enable you to get not only parts that you can print fast, but also that are really accurate. So when we compare the Form 3B to the Form 4B, we can see already that in this case, we have a different light source. So instead of having a laser, we now had 60 LED lights that are being, always turning on all of them at the same time. And as you can see on both animations, on the left and the right hand side, you can already detect by simple looking at this animation the print speed differences. So you can see on the left hand side we have the low force stereolithography technology of the Form 3B and the Form 3BL that actually it's curing our object spot by spot with the laser. On the right hand side we have the Form 4B technology, where we're going to be having all those 60 LED lights emitting the light, and then we're going to have all our optical components from the optical baffle and the lens array that will be responsible for projecting that light, and then the light processing unit 4 will be masking that light to create our object. But as you can see, if you see also how many times the build platforms ascends and descends, already on the right hand side we have seen much more times that this happened versus the animation on the left. A couple of important things to note is that the low-force display technology, the print engine, has 6 advanced subsystems. For instance, we have the automatic resin handling. So we still keep the fact that the resin is automatically dispensed to the tank. We also are going to see in a second that we redesigned the cartridges. Then we also have intelligent control systems, which we will see in a second. But important to know that we have the resin tank with a flexible film. It's very durable and really, it's resistant to any scratches and punctures, and is going to be also responsible of reducing those forces during the print process. As we saw before, we have the backlight unit and the light processing 4 with the release texture, that all of these elements are responsible for, emitting our light and masking our light, and also helping with the low force, print process per se. So about the intelligent control systems, we also have a very nice feature that we have a camera that enables remote monitoring and troubleshooting of our print jobs. There's also a resin level sensor that measures the exact amount of resin in the tank, so we can keep consistent, we know exactly what resin is within there. They're printer leveling sensors, so we know that whenever we have to level our printer, so that actually also stays in the printer and ensures equal resin distribution in the tank. So it's very important to level your printer when you're using it, before using it. Then there's the force sensor that optimizes print speed and quality across materials and geometries. That force sensor is super important for the print process. Also the resin temperature sensor, as we discussed before, that adjusts the temperature for optimal print results, and you can see that also in the light processing unit 4 when you turn it around. And the mixer being responsible for checking for debris and can help us to reduce the risk of any print failures because it detects that there's maybe something in the tank that can jeopardize our print. As I mentioned before, this is how it looks like, for instance, when we use the camera that is inside the printer to monitor our prints. So you can also record time lapses, and you can see on the left hand side that is a time lapse of when we printed occlusal splints, and on the right hand side a time lapse for printing the models that we were going to use to fit those splints upon. Let's see how to set up your Form 4B for printing. So before getting started, it's very important to always wear gloves. So I already have gloves on, and we're going to be setting up the Form 4B, which you can see here. So we already seen that the Form 4B consists of different parts. We already saw what's inside the Form 4B with the backlight unit and the light processing unit 4. The Form 4B has this cover, the printer cover, that enables us to keep like a very, let's say, constant environment inside the printer, and also avoid whatever resin, liquid resin is, let's say, printing, to cure from external light. So to set up the printer, we need a couple of elements. First one is the resin tank and the mixer. So for the resin tank, we have the resin tank here. It has already been used for fast model resin, so it already contains liquid resin, and it has a flexible bottom of the tank, as you can see. And I'm always grabbing the tanks from the sides because I want to avoid having any fingerprints at the bottom, because that's going to be the surface where the light is going to come through, so I don't want to have any fingerprints there. As you can see, the tank, it's already protected, and I have the plastic lid on. This enables me to, for example, when I'm done with the print job, take the tank, put the plastic lid, store it on the side, change and swap materials very easily. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place the tank in the printer. You can or remove the plastic lid already outside, or place the tank with a plastic lid on. That's what I'm going to do now. So we slide our tank in the printer, okay, and I'm going to secure these lateral latches to the tank. So that's going to secure the tank in place. So that's it, and actually the printer detects that I already inserted the tank. I'm going to remove the plastic cover, put it on the side, and now I want to secure my mixer. My mixer has already been, let's say, used for printing. The mixer, as I mentioned before, is going to be used to keep our resin homogeneous and correct conditions, and also will be responsible, the mixer, for detecting any debris or let's say impurities in the tank. So I'm going to place, the mixer has a little area where I can place it and secure it. So I already secured the mixer. Next up, I need to place my build platform. I have two options here, or to use the build platform standard or the build platform flex. So what are the differences between these build platforms? So the build platform standard, as you can see here, it's this one, and the build platform flex is using the quick release technology to remove parts from the surface. So when you open Preform, you see also that you have a grid where you're orienting your parts when you're, let's say, giving orientation, adding supports, or maybe snapping the model's base directly to the build platform. That surface is exactly this one. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to be using the build platform flex. The build platform flex, as I mentioned before, has a quick release technology, which enables me to snap out the parts after the print is done. And it's really, really convenient because it really streamlines that part of the workflow of removing parts from this surface. So I'm going to place the build platform in the printer, and the printer already detects, do you have your build platform locked and clean? I'll press yes. The internal elements of the printer are already set up. Last but not least, I need my resin cartridge. As I mentioned before, the resin cartridge comes in this presentation. It comes in these plastic containers that are light tight and contain the liquid resin. It also contains, if we can see a little bit closer, the resin valve The resin valve is where the resin is going to be, let's say, from where the resin is going to be dispensed to the resin tank. And this also contains the cap. The cap needs to be opened once I place the cartridge in the printer. So to open the cap is very simple. It's just that. So I'm going to place the cartridge in the back of the printer. So let's do that. This is fast model resin. Place it, open cap. That sound is the printer detecting that I placed a fast model resin cartridge. So if I go to the printer screen, I select that I have my tank secured with my mixer, the belt platform, and cartridge. And those are all the elements that you need to set up your Form 4B. Next step would be to send a print job for preform, or if you already have your print job here, you just, let's say, select the print job that you want, and the printer will automatically start next up the job, and the print process will continue. So how does this affect the digital workflow on the printed part? How does this is clinically relevant or for the lab workflow, let's say, an impact? So if we look at, for example, model production, models for thermoforming, diagnostic models, or restorative model, we can see already that if we want to print a full build platform, we can range from 9 minutes to 31 minutes, 28 minutes, which are all times around 30-minute workflow for thermoforming, models for thermoforming or diagnostic models. But if we look at restorative models, for instance, that we're printing now at 50 micron layer height setting, we can see that we can print a full build platform in 110 minutes. And that is actually a significant improvement from the Form 3B or even Form 2. When we look at biocompatible resins, now we can see that we can print occlusal splints and guards, a full build platform with 8 splints in 49 minutes, or also in direct mounting trays or guides for direct composite restorations in 43 minutes. And if we look, for example, to surgical guides, 12 guides can be printed in 48 minutes, temporary all-on-X appliances in 37 minutes, or digital dentures, the teeth in 37 minutes, and denture-based resin, bases printed with denture-based resins in under 4 hours. Other applications, for instance, permanent restorations, also 1 crown in 29 minutes, temporary restorations in 25 minutes, and custom impression trays in 44 minutes. So you can see that the print times are actually significantly reduced as a whole. So important to know, because we have been looking at production of a full build platform, and you might be asking then, how much time does it take me to print one single model? It's important for you to know that because the print engine is changing, it doesn't matter really how many parts you have in the build platform, the print time is not going to be let's say, affected. So you can print one model in 9 minutes or a full build platform also in 9 minutes. So it's important for you to bear in mind, because before, with laser-based SLA, the more parts you add, the more it would take to print. But now actually we can see that a full build platform does not affect the print time as a whole, or whether you print one model or a full build platform. So let's look at actual parts. We see here the same model printed in different printers and with different materials, but you can see here this printed at the same layer height. And you can see, leaving aside the color difference, that the surface resolution obtained by the Form 4B is actually quite nice. And especially if we look at the area of the incisal edges. But if we look at the molar area, the cusps, we can see also that this is actually very good models for thermoforming appliances, for instance. And if we look at the same resin, and this is actually a picture from one of our key opinion leaders, Dr. Antonino Cacioppo, the same resin in different printers, we can see that there's also an effect in the optical clarity of the part, where in the Form 4B, we now get a much clearer part than in the Form 3B. But we know that speed is nothing without accuracy. So this video is also from Dr. Antonino Cacioppo. He actually tested the accuracy, for example, for this, let's say, full arch surgical guide, testing the fit of the metal sleeves. And we can see that actually the fit, it's really good and it's superb, and it fits perfectly. And this microscopic, let's say, recording actually enables us to really make that judgment a little bit, let's say, more realistically. And you can see here the fit of the metal sleeve adjusting to the printed surgical guide. So again, speed is nothing without accuracy, and this is a proof of concept of that. Now let's look at the Form 4BL. So the Form 4BL is using this, in essence, the same low force display technology, but of course, as the name says it, is a larger volume production unit. So we want to actually bring this hardware at speed that scales, so opening a new era of dental manufacturing. So this new hardware unit enables for high throughput. You can print more parts per print with fewer interactions. You can also print very fast, so you can print 32 models in 14 minutes. Also, we wanted this to be a reliable printer that you can really rely on and print all your full production here. It's accurate, so the same accuracy as we see in the Form 4B, in the Form 4BL. So if you want to print restorative models, you would get that accuracy on spot. Also that you can, let's say, swap between materials. There's a lot of dental applications that are also enabled in the Form 4BL. And also, it's still easy to use, and you will see because of the cost of the resin, the cost of the hardware, and the fewer interactions, you will achieve a faster ROI with the production with this hardware unit. So a couple of differences we see that compared to the Form 4B, the Form 4BL does have a bigger build platform, so specifically 2.7 times larger build surface compared to the Form 4B. So we expect 3 times fewer interactions also with the printer. So you can, for instance, print everything in one batch, and then instead of coming in and out to, let's say, post-process parts, you can just print one thing in one go, and then just have one single moment where you do all the post-processing. Important thing to know is that this, let's say, hardware unit is also going to be compatible with the resin pumping system. So you can use the 5-liter resin containers to keep on feeding your printer and not having to swap, let's say, the cartridges of materials. So here we see a little bit of the Form 4B and Form 4BL also compared to the Form 3BL. So the Form 4BL is less wide and similar depth and taller compared to the Form 3BL. One thing to note is that compared to the Form 3BL, the doors open sideways instead of upwards. So that is important to know when you're considering structuring your space. Now you don't need to have more room on the top, but because the door opens sideways, and you can see here how you can fit 32 models flat on the build platform instead of 11 like in the Form 4B, and the footprint. So again, this is a very clear comparison of how you can get 1.9 times more throughput. So if we do an estimate, you can produce more than 120 models per hour. And if we look at, for example, restorative models printed with precision model resin at 50 microns, you can print 28 models in roughly, let's say, in about 3 hours. Whether in the Form 4B, you can print 10 models in under 2 hours. So now let's look at the post-processing solutions that became available this year. First, we also brought the Build Platform Flex to enable to use that quick release technology to remove the parts that are printed directly on the Build Platform in a much simpler way. So you have this platform for the Form 4B and the Form 4BL. So we brought that same mechanism, but to newer hardware generation printers. We also have a new Form Wash, 2nd generation. So you will see if you have the older Form Wash compared to this one, there's an improved agitation. It has 3 more times power agitation, and which does affect in the optimal, let's say in the part cleaning, you will get a more optimized wash. It also comes with adjustable arms that enables you to adjust if you want to wash parts on the build platform, that you can adjust those arms to fit whether Form 3B build platforms or Form 4B in one wash. You also will see that you, let's say, can adjust those arms not only for depending on the build platform, but also of how much IPA you have in your resin in the Form Wash bucket. You can adjust it to be lower, so you have to fill less amount of the Form Wash with the solvent. And also, yes, you will see that you can also fill it in different levels. You don't need to fill it up to the very top to wash. You will now have indicators in the Form Wash bucket with 6, 9, and 10, 14 liters to see how much you want to fill it out. Up next, we got the Formlabs resin washing solution. So this is a new solvent brought by Formlabs with the objective of actually solving some problems that IPA or TPM have. So one of the things that happens is we know IPA is a very good solvent and still needed for biocompatible resins. So this washing solution won't substitute the post-processing for biocompatible resins. But we know that IPA is a good solvent, but it's volatile. It has, let's say, has a risk of being a flammable material and other hazards. And that's how the Formlabs resin washing solution came as an option. So what is the things to stand out about this wash solution? So it's stable and cost effective. It's stable, low order chemistry, so it doesn't smell like IPA, and it cleans parts as well as IPA. And also it's a longer solution lifetime because it has twice of the longevity of IPA, so it will saturate much less. And also because it doesn't evaporate or has minimal evaporation compared to IPA, you will need to, let's say, top up less amount of times or to change it, the solvent as frequent as IPA. Actually, that it's going to be required less. It's validated non-flammable per GHS classification. So, for instance, for people that have concerns about storing solvents because of the flammability, this should not be a concern with this wash solution. And also, we wanted to simplify the sourcing, so you know that IPA and TPM are not manufactured by Formlabs, so we wanted to be able to, for users that purchase via Formlabs or via our partners, that they can also get their, let's say, solvent in the same place. Another interesting topic are the materials. So there are a couple of new materials that were brought this year specifically for model production and enabled exclusively for the Form 4B. These are fast model resin, precision model resin, and gray resin. So for fast model resin, you can print models for thermoforming clear aligners or retainers. And as we saw in all the examples before, you can print 11 models in 9 minutes. So this is a completely new formula that enables to really print super fast, even 3 times faster than rough resin on the Form 3B, and being able to, let's say, get models super fast, but also the post-processing is quite efficient. So applications recommended are actually models for thermoformed appliances or wax-up models to fabricate the silicon indexes to do the mock-up in the patient's mouth, or even if you need to try, for example, an indirect bonding tray or occlusal splint, you can print the fitment check models in this material. And also for restorative applications, we brought precision model resin for printing highly accurate restorative models. So this was also developed from scratch, solving a couple of issues that Model V3 had. So for instance, printing with a much, let's say, a less yellowish color material with a more matte surface, and also that meet the accuracy requirements for restorative applications. So when we look at the accuracy numbers in a model printed at 50 microns, when we do the surface scan analysis of the printed part with the CAD file, we saw that, for example, 99.7% of the printed surfaces are within 100 microns of the CAD model. And if we change that to 50 microns, we saw that still above 95% of the printed surfaces are within 50 microns of the CAD model, which is very, let's say, important for restorative applications and also, for instance, implant analog models. So if we look at the overall workflow time, we see that precision model resin actually enables you to can print the full build platform. You can print a full build platform under 2 hours. You will wash for 5 minutes, and then the post-processing is actually no more than 5 minutes, which is actually a huge advantage when you're thinking about producing restorative models. The print time compared to Form 3B is actually significantly different. But then we also brought a couple of very interesting biocompatible materials. For instance, premium teeth resin is a ceramic-filled tooth-colored resin that has indication of temporary full-arch implant-supported appliances, what we normally refer to all-on-X appliances, teeth for full and partial dentures, so this is more like a longer-term solution, and also temporary bridges and single units. So you have both permanent and temporary indications for this material. But what we can stand out about this material is that not only comes in 4 shades like A2, A3, B1, and bleach that you can see here according to the Vita, let's say, scale, is that we work to have a really lifelike aesthetic. So we work on the translucency. So for example, in the sizzle edges, you can see here that the translucency and the transmittance of light actually is quite nice. And the opalescence and the polishability. It actually polishes very nicely. I also tested this out myself, and you don't even basically need a glaze. But one of the things that I do want to stand out is that we did test the flexural strength intraorally. We tried to mimic the intraoral environment conditions and check how the flexural strength behaved in those conditions. And when we compared our material to other competitors, we saw that competitor materials actually, their flexural strength did drop when we try to simulate the intraoral environment, but the premium teeth resin actually didn't have a statistically significant drop in the mechanical properties, and this mechanical property specifically, which indicates that the flexural strength should, let's say, remain the same even in intraoral conditions. Last material that I'm going to be sharing today is actually Begovar Smile Shrinic resin. This material actually is the first material indicated for permanent units and permanent bridges and single units of the market. You can also print denture teeth for full or partial dentures, as well as temporary single units and up to 7-unit bridges. So again, a little bit similar to premium teeth, it's a Swiss knife kind of material that has multiple clinical indications. One of the other features that are actually very interesting for dental users that also became available this year are actually some features available in Preform. So if we look at these, we now have the possibility of labeling our models directly in Preform. So for instance, you can see here this upper arch, and you can whether have that label embossed or engraved. You can also alter the text size and also define the depth. And in this case, I'm using this to label an upper arch model. So you can see that you don't need to use a third-party, let's say, system to do this, and you can embed this already directly in Preform. The second option is now that you have the possibility of creating hollow models, or more specifically, actually honeycomb models. So if you open the Scan to Model feature, you're actually able to select hollow models while creating the base. And you will see that after the Scan to Model feature ends its work, you will see the honeycomb structure and that you have this base. And also the ventilation holes are added, which enable you to print the model directly on the build platform. And if we look at the slicer, you can see further detail of the honeycomb structure. And last but not least, if you already have an existing hollow model that you're importing into Preform and you want to print directly on the build platform, you still need to add ventilation holes to avoid that suction cup effect on the model. And before you had to use let's say another software to do this, but now you can do this directly in Preform, which really streamlines the workflow and enables users to do this step already in one software. So this actually empowers our users with these new features, especially for model production, and that these also became available this year. So now let's talk about Open Platform. What is Open Material Platform? It's actually a collection of 3 products for users that are compatible with the Formlabs SLA line. So this has 3 things: certified materials, Preform print settings editor, and open materials mode. So what are these? So basically these are actually, you can see here, so Formlabs Certified Materials is a curated selection of premium certified third-party resins on Formlabs printers. It's free to access to anyone with a Formlabs printer. So this means, and this is exactly the example of Begovar Smile Shrinic resin. Then there's also Preform print settings editor that basically you can access that already in Preform. You can adjust a couple of print settings, for example, control exposure, layer height, resolution, heating, wiping, etc. for some of the existing Formlabs resin, except the biocompatible resins. And last but not least, there's also Open Materials mode that is going to unlock the possibility to print with any 405 nanometer photopolymer resin on the Formlabs SLA printers. So this will empower really researchers and expert users to experiment with this advanced print tool. So how to access this? This one, yes, has an additional cost per printer, but is a one lifetime license fee per printer. So you can see this has been a very busy year with a lot of new things, but Formlabs is always working on bringing new solutions. So stay tuned to learn more in the next upcoming years. So there's definitely going to be more to come. I really want to thank you for your time. We hope that you find this session as a very comprehensive summary of everything that has been launched this year relevant to the dental field. And that if you have any questions or need any extra information, we will be happy to answer any of these. You can just reach out to us and we'll be happy to assist you. So we hope you enjoy the User Summit and we see you next time.